My name is Naomi Hart, 34 years old. Thanksgiving is supposed to taste like cinnamon and peace. This one tasted like drywall dust and restraint. For 2 months, I had been at my parents' new house after work, after bedtime, after everything. On my knees with a pry bar and a headlamp, sliding new floors into place like puzzle pieces, sweating through plumbing fixes, tracing bad wiring like a detective with a multimeter and a prayer. I didn't bill them for a single hour. They called it help. I called it family. I asked for one thing in return: occasional babysitting. Not every weekend, not even most. Just the nights when single motherhood and grief stacked too high, and I needed the kind of sleep that isn't possible with a 6-year-old who wakes from thunder and a 10-year-old who asks if missing someone has an end date. My husband died 3 years ago. Some days I survive on routine and coffee, others on faith and luck. Mom set the table like a magazine spread. Runner ironed flat, candles trimmed, napkins folded into little boats that would sink the second anyone cried. Dad carved the turkey with ceremony. Mara, my older sister, sat across from me with her 2 children, angel quiet, the way our family likes to remember childhood. Silent, staged, grateful. Emily swung her feet gently. Ben tapped his fork to the beat of a song only he could hear. Midway through dinner, Dad laid down his fork like he was about to announce a merger. "We're not going to babysit your kids anymore." At first I smiled, waiting for the punchline. It didn't come. The room held its breath. He went on, tired, too much. Not like Mara's, who are well-behaved, quiet, easy. Mom stared into her wine as if the right notes might absolve her. Mara exhaled, slow, but didn't interrupt. I felt something seize. Not the kind of anger that explodes, the kind that freezes. I looked at Emily, at Ben. Their faces didn't know how to receive the words. My own didn't either. I set my napkin down. "Seriously?" Dad nodded, relieved I had saved him from pretending. "It's better this way." I swallowed the taste of metal. "Okay," I said evenly. "Then I'm done fixing your house." It was as if the chandelier blinked. The table fell into the kind of silence that remembers everything you've ever done for people who liked you quieter. Mom rushed to fill it. "Naomi, don't be dramatic. You don't know how hard it is for us. Our backs, our schedules." Across the table, Aunt Teresa cleared her throat. "We're not really comparing children at the table, are we?" Uncle Dev pretended to fuss with his glasses and said, "I watched Naomi pull up a rotten subfloor. Thousands of dollars saved." Mara finally looked up, eyes moving between our parents and me, measuring something private. I stood, smoothed my dress that still smelled faintly of primer. "Thanks for dinner," I said, and meant it. I turned to my kids. "Coats." We walked past the good silver drying on the towel, past the stacks of unopened mail that always become my problem, past the cedar wreath that made everything look like a picture. In the car, Emily asked, "Are we in trouble?" I told her the truth. No, but some people should be. That night, pajamas and teeth and one chapter of a book we all know by heart. Then the question I had feared. Ben's voice, small. "Why don't they like us?" My face went into my hands. When I spoke, I kept my voice steady. "They do like you. They're just not very good at showing it right now." Some grown-ups forget that kids aren't a problem to solve. They're people. I brushed his hair back, kissed his forehead. "I love you more than anything." Sleep came late. I stared at the ceiling and tried to be angry instead of hurt. Anger burns. Hurt lingers. In the morning, my phone looked like an emergency. 52 missed calls. For a second, fear cracked my ribs. I called back. Mom answered on the first ring and launched in as if I had torched her kitchen. "You need to come over now." "Why?" I asked. She pivoted around the question. "Just come." Dad took the phone. "Naomi, come. We'll talk." I almost didn't. But Emily's art tote and Ben's jacket were still at their place. I told the kids to pack the Lego set. They didn't ask why, which tells me they already knew. Their apartment felt 2 degrees colder than usual. Mom paced. Dad stood with his arms crossed, like a bouncer in his own kitchen. Mara sat on the couch, the way moderators do on debate night. Neutral face, steady eyes, the only adult in a room of grown-ups. Mom fired first. "Don't you think you overreacted?" I blinked. "Overreacted?" Dad slid in with the soft threat voice. "We're sorry if your feelings were hurt, but you can't refuse to finish the house over something so small." There it was, the heart of it, not the kids, the house. Just to be clear, I said calmly, you called my kids a burden and compared them to Mara's in front of them. And when I say I won't do free labor anymore, I'm the problem? Mom pressed her palm to her chest like I'd accused her of theft. We've done so much for you. We took care of your children for years. Mara surprised everyone. Mom, Dad, you shouldn't have said it in front of Emily and Ben. She didn't look at me when she said it. She didn't need to. Dad turned back to me, trying to tie a bow on a bomb. Naomi, you're not going to cut us off over something small. I held his gaze. Watch me. Mom gasped. The opera note she keeps for when the script flips. I opened the hall closet, lifted Emily's tote, Ben's jacket, a forgotten pair of sneakers. I had my hand on the doorknob when Mom hissed, "You're being selfish." I turned, and I let the words come out clean. 2 months of free labor, no complaints. The one thing I asked was a little help with your grandchildren. You want my time, my skill, my nights. The second I need something, it's suddenly too much. Her mouth opened. I didn't wait for what came next. You don't have to babysit, but I don't have to fix your house. I walked out. The next few days were a chorus. Calls, texts, silence, then strategy. I didn't pick up. I cooked. I worked. I stood in the doorway after the kids fell asleep and watched them breathe like the last good thing in a world that refuses to be simple. That night, Evan texted from a late shift. Proud of you. Need me to grab groceries tomorrow? I smiled and typed back, we're okay. A few minutes later, a notification pinged from Facebook. Lila, Evan's ex, had liked one of Mom's old photos of the house. People always show up when there's a crowd. I put my phone face down. By day 5, the guilt trip arrived on schedule. We're getting older, Naomi. We won't be around forever. Then the loyalty speech. Family helps family. The next text made me laugh out loud in my kitchen. We forgive you. Can you come finish the house this weekend? Forgive me. I didn't answer. When I finally did speak to anyone, it was because Mara showed up at my door, hands buried in her coat pockets, face stripped of the version she wears for our parents. She didn't ask to come in. She just said, we need to talk. And for the first time, I wondered if this story had just shifted direction. Mara stood in my doorway like a person who'd rehearsed a speech and lost her lines on the walk over. I stepped aside. She came in, sat at the kitchen table, and stared at the fruit bowl like it might blink first. They called a contractor, she said finally. I poured tea for both of us. Good. Did he do the walkthrough I told them to schedule? They found him on Facebook. A wince tugged her mouth. Dad paid him up front. $10,000. The steam from my mug curled into the kind of laugh I didn't let out. Up front. He's gone, Naomi. She slid her phone across the table, messages from an account with a patriotic eagle avatar and exactly one photo of a ladder. No license number. No company address. A final on my way 3 days ago. Silence since. The laugh burst anyway, sharp, not kind. Then it died because Mara's face said there was more. They borrowed the money, she whispered. Uncle Mark, Aunt Linda, Grandma. My fingers tightened around the cup. Grandma? Mom said it was temporary, that you refused to help. The words landed between us like a dent. Mara kept going before I could respond. I told them this is their doing. I told them they could have apologized. I stared. My sister, the favored one, the one whose children were quiet and easy, had just landed on my side of the line. She looked up, eyes steady. You should make them beg. A sound escaped me, something like surprise, something like relief. You think they will? They don't have a choice. Ben thundered down the hall then, skidding in socked feet. Can Auntie stay for dinner? Emily followed, hopeful. Mara smiled, the real kind, not the one she uses for our parents, and nodded. We ate takeout dumplings at the counter, sauce on the corners of Ben's mouth, Emily telling a dramatic story about a class hamster rescue. For a moment, we were what I had tried to build for years, family that didn't need a script to be good to each other. After they brushed teeth and picked a movie, Mara drew a line on the condensation of her tea glass. They're going to try everything. Guilt, bribes, deals. She glanced at my phone, face down on the table. Don't answer. Not yet. I didn't. The next morning, the campaign began. A text from Mom, long enough to be a newsletter. We're getting older, Naomi. We won't be around forever. You don't understand what we've done for you. I set the phone on the counter and cracked eggs into a bowl. An hour later, Dad. Families work through misunderstandings. Come discuss the house. The house. always the house. At lunch, we forgive you. Can you come finish the house this weekend? I laughed so hard I scared the cat. Evan texted after his shift. Stores out of oat milk, got almond. Victory or tragedy? I typed back, call it character development. Then, they lost 10K to a Facebook handyman. He sent the cringing face. Then, I'm sorry, want me to come by? I told him I was okay. He replied with a photo of a truly ugly grocery store cake and emergency dessert. I told him Reese's would do. By evening, Dad had moved to bargaining. We'll start babysitting again if you finish the floor upstairs. I wrote a reply and didn't send it. I preferred silence, he could hear. At 10 p.m., a ping from Facebook. Lila, Evan's ex, had commented on an old photo of my parents' porch. Such a beautiful home. Some people don't appreciate what they have. No tag, no names, just a match held to dry tinder. I clicked her profile out of habit and closed it just as fast. Not my war, not my battlefield, not anymore. I put my phone in a drawer. Day 3 of radio silence. Mara again, this time on the phone, her voice low. They're desperate, she said without preamble. Mom sent me to talk sense into you. Dad said to tell you they're willing to reconsider. I could hear the air quotes. And? I told them to apologize. To your face and to the kids. She paused. Mom cried. Dad got quiet. That's as close as I've seen them to actually breaking. Good, I said, a word I'd never allowed myself to feel about their pain. Let them sit with it. You know they'll try one more strategy. Which one? The one where I show up and say please, she said wry. So, please, meet them, on your terms. I looked at the Lego moon base sprawled across the coffee table. At the little plastic astronaut Emily had positioned at the airlock like a guard. My terms, I repeated. Your terms, Mara said. Or nothing. I gave it 48 more hours. 2 more, we miss the kids' texts. 1, we forgive you, encore. A voicemail from Dad that started with Naomi and ended with an audible swallow. Then I called Mara. Set it up. Tomorrow. They don't talk until I'm done. She blew out a breath. Done. I spent the night writing a list. Not a manifesto, not a speech, just lines I could say without shaking. I'm not finishing your house. I won't be the emergency plan again. Time with Emily and Ben is on their terms, not yours. If you compare my kids to anyone again, we're done. Help from me is a favor, not a debt you're collecting. I taped it to the inside of my purse like a lifeline. Ben wandered out for water, hair a rioting halo. Are we going to Grandma's tomorrow? He asked. We're going to talk to them, I said. You can come or stay with Evan. He considered the options as if evaluating whether. I want to stay with Evan. A beat. He makes good grilled cheese. Scientific fact, I agreed. Emily followed, already sensing the current. Are they going to be weird? Maybe, I said honestly, but I won't. Good. She yawned so dramatically it looked performative, then hugged me around the waist. We're on your team. I stood in the dark kitchen after they went back to bed and let my shoulders drop. On my team. Sometimes that's all a person needs to walk into a room that never liked the sound of her voice. Their apartment looked smaller in daylight, the kind of small that comes from losing face, not square footage. Mom's eyes were swollen in a way makeup can't fix. Dad's posture had collapsed 2 degrees. I sat, didn't take off my coat. Time did that rubber band thing, stretched and waiting to snap. Dad spoke first, a long sigh disguised as a sentence. We messed up. Not I'm sorry, not we were wrong, but closer than we'd ever been. He kept going, words tripping over each other, frustrated, tired, overwhelmed, the house bigger than they thought, emotions bigger than the house. Mom stared at the carpet and whispered, We love you. We love the kids. The kind of line that only sounds fake when you don't need it. I did. I let the quiet hold for a count of 5. Then I took out the list, not to read, but to feel its paper spine steady my hand. I'm not finishing your house, I said. Mom flinched like the sentence had velocity. Dad's mouth tightened. You had 2 months of my nights and weekends, I continued. You saved thousands because I showed up. I asked for a little help with your grandchildren. You said my children were too much, and you said it in front of them. I looked from one face to the other. So here's how this works going forward. If I help you, it's because I want to, not because you expect it. Time with Emily and Ben happens only if they want it. And if you ever compare my kids to Mara's again, the conversation ends for a long time. Mom opened her mouth, then closed it. Dad nodded once, a small, controlled movement, like an executive surrendering a pen. Can we see them this weekend? Mom asked, very quietly. We miss them. I'll ask them, I said. If they want to, I'll drop them at 5. There was relief in her shoulders I'd never seen. Shame, too. I recognized it because I'd carried that shape for years, in different colors. I stood. That's it, I said. We're done for today. Dad walked me to the door like he didn't know if he should. We do love them, he said. We messed up. The words looked sore coming out. Then don't do it again, I said, and left. Outside, the air felt sharper. I called Evan. Delivery hero, I said. We're on for grilled cheese at 6. He laughed. Copy that. Chef Evan reporting for duty. Tell your ex to stop liking my mother's porch, I added, light but not entirely joking. He groaned. I'll handle it. Please don't, I said. Let boring be bored. We don't feed that fire. Consider it starved, he said, relief easy. Back home, the kids listened to the offer like judges. Emily shrugged after a beat. We'll go, but we're leaving if they get weird. Deal, I said. That night, Mara called. They asked me if you'll ever really speak to them again, she said softly. How did you answer? I said that depends on whether they learn a new language. I laughed, short and real, and for the first time since Thanksgiving, I believed a different ending was possible. Not a miracle, not a family remake, just a life where my lines didn't shake and my kids knew who chose them every time. The weekend came faster than I expected. Saturday afternoon, I packed Emily's sketchbook and Ben's dinosaur pajamas into a tote. They asked the question 3 times on the drive over. Are they going to be weird again? Maybe, I said each time, steady. But remember, you get to decide. If you want to leave, we leave. By the 3rd repetition, Emily's shoulders dropped. Ben pressed his forehead against the car window, humming under his breath. When we pulled into the lot, Mom was already waiting at the door, apron still on, as if to prove she'd been cooking. Her smile was too wide, her arms a little too open. We missed you so much, she said, bending low to hug Emily and Ben. Dad stood in the background, quiet, letting her perform the warmth. He caught my eyes, then glanced away. I stayed for a few minutes, long enough to watch the kids settle into the living room. Ben was already pulling out the toy bin Grandma had dusted off. Emily flipped through her sketchbook at the table. Dad tugged me aside into the kitchen. His voice was low, almost gravel. We really do love them, Naomi. We messed up. It wasn't a full apology, but for him, it was as close as the language stretched. I nodded once. Then don't mess up again. When I left, I felt the kind of unease that isn't relief, but isn't dread either. Something between. That night, after I'd folded laundry and poured tea, my phone rang. Mara. Her voice was softer than usual, the kind she used when she didn't want the kids to hear her cry. I need to tell you something, she said. What now? Mom told me why they stopped babysitting. I frowned. Because they were tired, that's what they said. Mara exhaled. That wasn't it. At least not the whole story. They were jealous, Naomi. Jealous of what? Of you. Of how much people noticed you at Thanksgiving. How close you are with your kids. How relatives praised you for fixing the house. They felt like they lost control of the family's narrative. Like suddenly, you were the responsible one, and not me. It pissed them off. I sat in silence, staring at the grain of my kitchen table until the lines blurred. So they punished me for being a good mother? They punished you because they couldn't stand you being seen, Mara said gently. The words didn't make sense, and yet they explained everything. The house, the comparisons, the biting comments that had nothing to do with babysitting. I thanked her quietly and hung up. For a long time, I sat with it. Their rejection hadn't been about the labor or even the babysitting. It had been about the fact that for once, I was the one people looked at with respect, and that was unbearable for them. From then on, I built my boundaries like scaffolding, visible, solid, not to be confused with invitations. If they wanted to see the kids, it happened only if Emily and Ben agreed. If they wanted help, they asked, not demanded. If they ever compared my children again, that would be the last time. And they knew it. For the first time, they knew I wasn't bluffing. Weeks passed with a strange peace. No late-night guilt calls, no strings disguised as favors, just silence. It felt like breathing clean air after years in a smoke-filled room. Then, one Sunday afternoon, my aunt called me with the line no one wants to hear. Naomi, did you see what your mom posted on Facebook? My stomach dropped. What now? I opened the app. There it was, a long, self-righteous post. Family should always help each other. Some people forget where they came from. After all we've done, it's sad to see our own daughter turn her back on us. At least we still have our amazing Mara, who never abandoned us. No names, but everyone knew. My chest went hot, then cold. For years, I'd stayed quiet. Not this time. I typed, finger steady. You're right, Mom. Family should help each other. That's why I spent 2 months fixing your house for free while you sat in your apartment. That's why I asked for nothing in return except that you treat my children with basic respect. When you called them a burden and compared them to Mara's kids, I realized you didn't want family. You wanted servants. And I won't play that role anymore. I hit post. Then I watched. The first comment came from Uncle Dev. Wow, I didn't know the whole story. This is messed up. Then Aunt Teresa. Naomi is right. She gave you everything and you repaid her by insulting her kids. Even Grandma. You told me you needed money because Naomi refused to help. You never told me why. Now I see the truth. One after another, the comments stacked, peeling away their narrative. The one that broke the pattern came from Mara herself. I love Mom and Dad, but Naomi is telling the truth. They treated her unfairly, and she has every right to step back. My golden sister, the one they'd always held up as the perfect child. She hadn't just stopped defending them. She had defended me. Within an hour, the post vanished. Deleted. My phone buzzed with Mom's call. I let it ring. Then a text. Was that necessary? I replied, was your post necessary? Silence. 2 days later, Dad sent a message. Just 6 words. We were wrong. We're sorry. No excuses. I stared at it for a long time. I didn't need anything else. From then on, the rules held. I never lifted a hammer for them again. They hired professionals at full price. I never let them guilt me into anything. If they wanted to see Emily and Ben, it was only because the kids wanted to. And never once again did they compare my children to Mara's. Because they knew, if they did, it would be the last time they ever saw them. For the first time in my life, I wasn't just their daughter. I was someone they had to respect. And that was worth everything. After Dad's 6-word text, life didn't suddenly turn golden. But it shifted. Quietly. Permanently. For weeks, my parents were on their best behavior. Calls became polite check-ins, not demands. Mom asked instead of assumed. Dad bit his tongue when conversations drifted toward Mara's children. It wasn't contrition exactly, it was fear. Fear that if they slipped back into their old ways, I'd close the door for good. And for once I would. Evan noticed it too. We were cooking one night, the kids sprawled in the living room, building a pillow fort. He stirred sauce while I chopped onions. You're lighter, he said. Lighter? He smiled. Like you're not carrying someone else's house on your back. I laughed. A short sound that surprised me. I stopped being their repairwoman and became their daughter again. Or maybe just a woman they can't use. He nodded, slid the pan off the burner. That's better than daughter, Naomi. That's respect. The kids shouted from the other room. Ben insisting the fort needed defensive walls, Emily rolling her eyes. For once, the noise felt like music, not chaos. When my parents asked to take Emily and Ben for a weekend, I didn't answer right away. I asked the kids. Ben shrugged. Only if Grandpa doesn't make that face. What face? I asked. The one like he wants to fix me. Emily tilted her head. If Grandma compares me to Mara's kids again, we leave. Deal, I said. They went. And when I picked them up Sunday night, the kids weren't tense. They were sleepy, arms full of cookies and sketchbook doodles. Dad muttered again, almost shy. We love them. We messed up. For once, I didn't correct him. I just said, good, don't do it again. But the final twist came not from them, but from the outside world. One evening, Mara called. Her voice was cautious. You should know, Mom's still talking. I sighed. Of course she is. Not to people who matter, just neighbors, cousins, trying to spin the Facebook thing. And it's not working. Everyone saw the comments. Grandma told her point blank to stop lying. Uncle Mark said he wants his loan back. I leaned against the counter, eyes closed. The war was over, and they had lost their army. What surprised me most wasn't their fall. It was Mara. For years, she had been the golden one. But in the ruins of this fight, she had stood next to me, even when it cost her their favor. It didn't erase old wounds, but it stitched something new between us. I'm glad you spoke up, I told her once. She hesitated. I'm glad you didn't let them break you. The real freedom wasn't their apology, or the silence, or even Mara's defense. It was waking up one morning and realizing I wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop. I had stopped playing servant, stopped trying to earn love that came with conditions. Now every choice was mine. One Sunday evening, after dinner, Emily climbed into my lap with her sketchbook. She'd drawn the four of us, me, Evan, Emily, and Ben, standing under a sky of stars. Above us, she'd written, "Our family." Not perfect, not traditional, but ours. Ben looked up from his dinosaurs and said, "Grandma's nicer now. Do you think she's scared?" I kissed the top of his head. "Maybe, but scared people can still learn." "Good," he said, serious, "because I like cookies." We all laughed until the walls shook. That night, I stood on the balcony, cool air brushing my skin, phone buzzing with a missed call from Mom. I didn't answer. I didn't feel guilty. For the first time, I knew the truth. I didn't need their approval. I didn't need their praise. I didn't need their love if it came poisoned with conditions. I had my kids, I had Evan, I had myself. And that was enough. More than enough. They will always be my parents, but I will never again be their servant. And for the first time in my life, I can finally breathe.